Welcome back. I have good news and bad news. The good news is that Google wanted to verify my actual address in order to send me payments. And the way that they do that is they mail a PIN number to my address, the one that I provided them for payment purposes. And then I have to enter that PIN number to show that, that I actually did receive that. And I have it sitting here, but I'm not going to show you what the PIN number is. But anyway, that's one step toward actually receiving payment, which isn't going to be a lot according to my dashboard here on YouTube. But thank you to all those of you who have made that possible, everyone who's hit subscribed. Eventually, I'm going to get a check for $15 or something, which maybe I will buy a 40 ounce with that. Probably not, but who knows? Anyway, the bad news, did I mention that there's bad news? Yeah, I have bad news, and that is that in this rapid game, and I've recropped this so you can see the graph here, my opponent and I combined for 25 blunders. And I think that it's showing on the screen that it was a draw, so spoiler alert, I didn't mean for that to be showing on the screen, but you can see from the graph here that we played really badly. I'm going to try to go through this game and figure out my blunders. I'm not going to try to figure out my opponent's blunders, and I am going to try to do this more quickly than I normally do because it's later for me than it normally is when I record these videos, and I don't want to be here all night. Let me recrop this screen. In case I failed to mention it, this was a 10-minute rapid game on Lee Chess, and we played the Caro-Kann defense. I played the Caro-Kann defense, and my opponent responded to it. I'm just going to click through these moves relatively quickly. All of these, I think, are normal. If not book moves, they have at least been played many, many times. And again, I am going to click through. Neither my opponent or I had any blunders throughout any of this section here. Only a couple of inaccuracies. And we're staying between +1 and -1, which at our level is fine. The next move was my opponent's first mistake, and that is because I can play knight to c5, and I did. Okay. And then my opponent made another mistake here, which has given me a little bit of an advantage. But now we're coming to my first blunder. Fortunately, I didn't look at the lines. If your screen is large enough, you can see them. What should I have played here? I did see that what I played was knight to a5. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but what should I have played instead? Should I have put a rook here, pinning this bishop to their rook? Or should I, I should have checked? No, because their rook's guarding that square. I will say that the reason I played knight to a5 is probably because I saw that that pawn was undefended on c4. I couldn't have checked here because they're still guarding that square. Oh, I guess I could have pushed this pawn forward, which would have prevented their pawn from moving forward. Is that what it was? It was going to be no, it wasn't. It was what I said first. Put one of the rooks here to... it's because my rook's under attack. That's why it's better. Oh, wow. Okay, well, I see that now. Okay, so I did understand this blunder. Good. Wait, it did it again. When I clicked next, it did the thing. Oh, that's what I was complaining about in my last video. When I click next, I want it to play the move that I actually played. Why did it do the other one? I have no idea. Because remember, I tried that in one of my previous videos, and I couldn't get it to do it when I was complaining about it. That's what I did play. But yeah, what I should have played was this because my rook's in danger. Okay, so when I played that, they were able to take my rook. Was it their best move? It was not. c5 is their best move. Really? Yeah, and that is, as I mentioned, when I said maybe that was a good move because it would have prevented that pawn from moving forward, which would have anchored the bishop in place. But the bishop doesn't want to anchor in place. It wants to take my rook, and it did. I'm supposed to take back... Was my next move a blunder too? No, it wasn't counted as one. But Stockfish says I should take back with my knight or my king, or check them here. I took back with my rook, which isn't even listed as a possibility, and it wasn't listed as bad, but it takes us up above +2. Okay, but my opponent blundered here. My opponent's best move is c5. I have no idea why. Wouldn't I take it? It says I wouldn't. It says I would drop back. Why wouldn't I take it? Oh, I know why. Because if I took it, they would play this and have a fork on my two pieces. Okay, but that's their only move that maintains the +2. And I can see why they wouldn't see it. That's a little bit of an advanced tactic. Not advanced, but it's at least intermediate to try to trick my bishop into going here so they can get a fork. And if I see the fork coming, which I probably wouldn't have, I drop back here, and now they've got a pawn this far advanced, and they can still play b5 or b4. But it says that they wouldn't. But my opponent missed that and played... It did it again. It played the move that they should have played. No, stop. What is wrong with this website? Sorry, I'm trying to make this video as quick as I can, but it keeps messing up. What they played was e1, king to e1, which is bad because, well, I can't, oh, I know why they did it, because they wanted to protect this pawn. Okay, well, I understand that, but it's bad because it allows knight to b3. What does knight to b3 do? I don't know. Bishop to c7 is also a good move, but what's that aiming at? Oh, is it trying to get in here? I don't know, but here comes my next blunder. I put my knight in there, and this time when I click next, it played what I did play, not what I should have played, so I have no idea what's going to happen when I click the next button on Lichess. Sorry about that. I don't have anything to do with how this site is run. If you do, maybe let us know why sometimes when you click the next button, it plays what you should have played, and other times when you click the next button, it plays what you did play. But that's what I did play, and it's a blunder because they can play b4 now. They did not play b4. They played that, which isn't aiming at anything. That's, oh, I think what maybe they were thinking about playing b4 first, and my knight has nowhere to go. Oh, it could always go to b3. In fact, it says knight to b3 is my best move right now, I guess, to prevent b4. But wait, if I played knight to b3 now, they get this pawn. That's why I left my knight there, is because it's protecting this pawn. It says if I played knight to b3, they would play knight to a4, which goes after this bishop. But then I would put my bishop there, which is a check, and they can't block the check with the pawn because my knight's in the way. Oh, well, I played that. I'm not sure why. What did I think that was doing? Oh, I think maybe I was thinking of dragging my bishop out of the way here. I don't know. Yeah, I can't explain why I played a6, but it was a blunder and gives my opponent +5 if they'll play b4 now. Or knight to a4 even takes advantage of a lot of that, or king to d1. They didn't play any of those. They played that. I'm not sure why that's a blunder. Again, I'm supposed to play knight to b3 or knight to g6, which is back where it was. Isn't that where it was? Well, because earlier it was a blunder for me to move my knight in there. Yeah, I don't know why that's a blunder, but we're not here to evaluate their moves. So those are the only two moves for me that maintain zeros. c5 would have been okay, but I wanted to move the knight, but right now it's the only thing defending this pawn. So that explains my next move, which was counted as a mistake. But I'm not sure why it's a mistake. It says they can play c5 now. Why is that? I don't know why that's good now. Oh, it's good for the same reason that it was before. Wow, because if I take it, they'll get the fork. But I just would have gone back here, wouldn't I? It says no. It says if they played c5, I would just move this rook over. They would take, and I would take and get my bishop out of danger that way. And then they would have an advanced pawn. But again, they didn't see this tactic. I don't know what they did see, but they played their second best move, which was this, king to d2. My best move is to bring my king over, or bring the knight back, or for me to play c5. But instead, I did the thing that I should have done a long time ago, which is play knight to b3, and that's inaccurate. But only if the king comes here to c3. But instead, they went to c2, which was counted as a blunder. I assume that's because it allows me to check. That is what I played, because my bishop's guarding that square, and also I thought that cuts off their rook from any support back there, right? So I did play that. Now their king is supposed to go to c3 again, which is where it should have gone in the first place. But they went back, and that's bad because, wait, I only maintain my -2 if I move my king over? Okay, well, I saw a free pawn, so I took it. That's inaccurate. They can play b4 now. They can play knight to e3. Oh, knight to e3 has moved up to their top move. That is what they played, but I can just take it. That's not listed as among my best moves. I'm supposed to move this knight back, which would be fine because it's threatening the rook. Wait, while I was talking, it says nope. While I was talking, it said move the king to f8 again. Okay, wait, it's still jumping around. I need to learn to stop talking until it's finished running. But yeah, king to f8 is my best move now. And it kept saying this, but then that's dropped out of favor now. a5 is good, or g6. I have no idea why king to f8 is so good. I think a5 is meant to prevent the b4. Maybe. I don't know, but I thought if I trade here, they'll take back and then their pawns will be doubled. So that's what I did, but it wasn't counted as inaccurate. It just wasn't great. Of course, they take back. Now their pawns are doubled, but I have to move that knight somewhere. One of my knights, the one that's being attacked by that pawn right now. And earlier, it kept saying to move this knight back here, but now that's not my best move. My best move is knight to h5. That's h5, right? Yeah. Or knight to wait, my second best move is to let them have that front knight, or my back knight. Oh, they wouldn't take the knight because their rook would be in danger. Okay, so yeah, my second best move is to move here, and then they would, you see that, right? Can you see those lines? It says if I played knight to e5, which is my second best move, threatening their rook, they would take here, giving up their rook, because I would take back, then they would take this knight. I don't think if I played knight to e5, my opponent would not take this pawn, I'm positive. I'm pretty sure they would drop it back, and then I would save my other knight. Well, I played that, and that took us back to even. Well, guess what my opponent finally saw, which is one of their top moves, c5. Okay, And then I played my best move here, believe it or not, which was that. I thought that was good because not only does it attack the rook, but it blocks both of those pawns pretty permanently. And I can then move this knight around and get that pawn. My opponent blundered. They're supposed to bring the rook all the way back or just back a little bit. But instead they did this. That's bad. It's bad because the rook was wanted on this file. Because now I can check and there's no rook guarding that file. And their best moves are to move over to the A file, but they came toward me, and now I can take this pawn. Is that my best move? Oh, it's the only move that maintains my advantage. It would have given my opponent the advantage if I had taken the bishop. I assume that's because it frees the rook finally. So I did take this pawn. So now I've gotten that weak pawn out of the way. They've got a e-pawn that's basically useless, but we're even on material because they have an extra rook. But their extra rook hasn't moved yet. They decided they wanted to move their extra rook and did this, but that was not great because I'm up -5, but only if I play here, knight to f6. I don't know why that's better than what I did, which was to take this pawn. That was a 2-point swing. I'm surprised it wasn't counted as inaccurate or a mistake. My opponent played their best move, which was to challenge the knight, and I'm supposed to go to a4 with it. I played my second best move, which gave away most of my advantage. I thought that was pretty nifty, trapping the rook in here. The Stockfish didn't think that was really nifty. They're supposed to bring their other rook over now. They did. And I'm supposed to go back here to protect my king. Yeah, guess what I did? That's where Stockfish wanted it in the first place. But instead I picked up a whole extra pawn and got the knight over there. But that's only bad if my opponent takes this pawn. Had my opponent taken that pawn, I probably would have taken back, which would have been very, very bad. Because then my back rank would have been empty and it would have been mate very quickly. But my opponent didn't see that, and that's the only move that takes their advantage here. Instead, they pushed that pawn forward. I've got to get this down here now so that they can't take this and force me off the back rank, and then I can always protect that knight with my king. But I didn't see that. I went there. Why did I go there? This pawn. That pawn's undefended. Look at that. That would have been a nice fork of these 3 pieces. The only move that maintains my opponent's advantage is to take this pawn. They did not see that that would have been a great deflection tactic. Again, I might have done it. I might have taken it. But in case I had seen the problem and escaped with my rook, they just would have gotten a free pawn. But they didn't see it. They went here to protect the pawn that I was obviously aiming at. I need to play g5 or g6 to give my king an out at this point, or play king to f8. Well, now king to f8 makes a lot more sense than it did 12 moves ago. Maybe Stockfish saw this scenario 12 moves ago. Maybe Ed guessed we would make all these blunders and I would need my king on f8 right now when it was suggesting it. Well, that was like 12 moves ago, right? Or longer. That's what I need to play now. One of those 3 moves. But instead, I decided to keep dancing around with my knights. I'm aiming at their rook. They need to move their rook. Actually, what they need to do is take this pawn. It's the only move that maintains their advantage. But instead, they got their rook out of danger. Again, I'm supposed to bring this knight back to the back rank. But I know why now. It's because they can take this pawn. Actually, no, that's not why anymore, because they don't have a rook on the D file anymore. They keep abandoning that open file with their rooks, but I still need to put a knight back here. It says, or play h6, or king to f8. Those are my only 3 moves here, but I did that instead. Well, it's a fork, right? It's a fork of their 2 rooks, and the only way to get rid of it is with this bishop, and then I'm going to take it with the pawn, so they took it. We've made it through quite a few blunders. I was not trying to count because I knew I would lose count. My opponent's best move is rook to b3, which is here. And they played it. That's pretty impressive. I don't know what that does. I guess they're getting ready to push this pawn. I'm supposed to go in there. Knight to f3. I mean, obviously aiming at that pawn, but I went over here to aim at that pawn, and now we're even. They're supposed to let me have that pawn. No, their 2 best moves are to move that pawn. But real close is b5. Well, since they'd already moved the rook over there, it makes sense that they played b5, and I took it. I was supposed to, and they're supposed to take back, and I'm supposed to take back my only move that keeps us even. Okay, I did that. And now they save that pawn. Knight to f2 is my best move. h4 would have been their best move here, but instead they took this pawn. And now, of course, they're aiming at this one. Am I supposed to take their h-pawn? I am, but I didn't. Why? Why didn't I take their h-pawn? This move I can't explain. It just gives up this pawn. Did my opponent take it? It's their best move, but they did not take it. They took this one instead. Okay, well, I do understand why my next move is a blunder. Because I took the rook. Mate in 1. Wow. All those times that Stockfish wanted them to sacrifice this c-rook for that b-pawn so they could checkmate me down here. And I fell for it right here. So my opponent didn't checkmate me. I'm supposed to move either my H or G pawns. I did move my H pawn, so we're dead even now. But that's not the end. We have more blunders. You already saw that the game ended in a draw. So this is a drawn position here according to Stockfish, and maybe according to much more advanced players than me. But to me, it's a position that could go either way depending on who makes any mistakes. My opponent played one of their best moves that keeps us even. I played one of our best moves. They're obviously going after the D pawn, so I went to protect it. That is a D pawn, right? Yeah, okay. Now they're not necessarily supposed to check me, but it's not bad because obviously I'm going to go to H7. They thought they saw a vulnerable pawn here, so they went for that. I have to play king to G6 to protect the pawn. They brought their king. We're still very close to even. I'm supposed to play knight to H7 now or knight to E4. I'm not sure what knight to E4 does. Knight to H7 obviously attacks their rook. Oh, I did play knight to E4. Well, I said I didn't know what it does, but I must have thought it did something. Oh, I know what it does. It gets out of the way of this pawn. Okay. Well, that's what I did it for then. All right. They continued bringing their king. I have a very slight advantage, but we're still very close to even. I'm supposed to hop down here to threaten their H pawn. That's what I did. They're going to move their H pawn. Now I'm going after their other pawn. And of course, if they move that one, then I can take it. They decided to defend the pawn that I had just gone after, which is fine. What am I supposed to do? Oh, I'm supposed to go after that one. I understand that. I didn't play that. I played this, which protects this pawn and attacks their rook, so they need to move their rook. They did. Well, then I went there, attacking that pawn again. I thought maybe we were going to get a repetition here. But instead they checked me, which I can easily block. I can also go to where Stockfish wanted me to go in the first place, but instead I blocked with the F pawn, which is fine. Now, I'm not defending this pawn anymore, so they're supposed to take it. My opponent still has nearly 2 minutes left. I'm not sure why they didn't see it, because I had been protecting that with this knight. I guess they thought if I took that pawn that I would get this one and be attacking their rook again, but they checked me. Okay, now I think I know why they didn't take this pawn. They thought if they check me and I take this pawn, then they'll take this with check. But now I have a huge advantage because I take the pawn. They can take the D pawn and check me, which is what they did. And I'm just supposed to block with the G pawn? Oh no. Well, I didn't. I went back in here. That's not great, is it? They're supposed to move their E pawn forward, but they didn't. They went to protect their E pawn because it was under attack. Well, now I can just move my H pawn. That's what the site says to do, or bring my king. But I did that. That attacks their rook. They went back. I assume to get behind this pawn. I need to bring my king, which probably to get in front of that pawn is my guess, or hide my king, or go after the pawn. But instead I checked, which gave up the advantage. So we're very close to even now, because now I have to run away with my knight. Well, I did, but I liked this spot because now that pawn's not going anywhere. Okay, we stay very close to even. Knight to G4 is my best move. I'm attacking the pawn. Are they supposed to defend it? Oh no, they're going to pin my knight. Well, I can protect the knight with H5, which Stockfish says is my best move. I did that. Now I can get my king out of that pin. Depends on what my opponent plays. They pushed the pawn. Okay, so I am supposed to play king to G5 or king to H6. Stockfish is having trouble deciding. Or king to H7 and F7 are my top moves now, but that wasn't horrible. They have several moves that maintain this, but my opponent blundered. What were they thinking? Were they thinking they were going to get this pawn, even though I can clearly just move it? But I could also just move this pawn since my king's protecting my knight now. H4 is the only move that gives me any advantage here. I played my second best move, which was to go after their pawn. Well, my opponent's supposed to go after the H pawn. It is my most advanced passed pawn. I'm supposed to play something to protect it, like G6 that I did. They're supposed to come back here. That's the only move that's not a blunder, is king to D5 to protect that pawn. But they blundered. Now they're under a minute, so I could see there was some time pressure here. I need to play H4 or take this pawn. Whoops, take this pawn. Or come closer to their rook. But instead I did that. Why did I do that? That lets them get this pawn. Why didn't I just take the pawn? I have no idea. But they took my G pawn. I took that pawn with check, and now we're drawn again. They played one of their best moves. I am supposed to play H4 or F5, trying to get some of these pawns downfield, so I did. They got behind the pawn. Am I supposed to move over to protect it? Yes. And then my opponent blundered again. They had lots of moves that would have been fine, but they did that. I don't know why they did that. Well, now I can play F5. I don't know why that's so much better than H3, but I played H3. I'm still ahead, though. And my opponent did not play their best move, which was to check me. They brought their king, aiming, I guess, for this, but that doesn't help anything, does it? H2, here we go. They moved their king up one, and I only have one move. Knight to G5 check. This is the last blunder of the game, by the way. I don't know if you can see that we've nearly reached the end of the move list here, but why is that better? Now, I know why what I played is a blunder. Okay, what I played was a blunder, and I know why it was, but I don't know why knight to G5 is so much better. It's the only move that doesn't take us back to basically drawn. If I played that, wouldn't they take this pawn? It says that they would not. Why would they not? You see their top moves, right? I mean, it's still jumping around a little bit, but king to E7, king to D7. Okay, it's settled almost. The third best move is to take this, but look at that, minus 54 if I had put my knight there. Nope, it's not even saying they should take the pawn anymore, but why not? Why not? I gotta know. Because I can block the rook's path to there. Oh, wow. And now if they check me, I just come here. And there's nothing they can do to prevent my pawn from promoting. Okay, I get why that's good then. Because it forces them to do something, including taking the pawn, so my knight can block the rook from seeing here. Because this is why we ended up drawing. I played that. I know it's a blunder because they can just take it. But they don't have to. They can just give up their rook for that pawn, which they did. And now it doesn't matter what I do. I can't win. If I take the rook, they take the pawn, and it's game over. It's an automatic draw. If I move the pawn forward, then they get away with their rook to someplace. But yeah, so that was a draw. Okay. Well, I understood about half those blunders. Hopefully you got some of them. Hopefully some of the ones that I said I didn't understand, you can explain to me in the comments. I know some of you are very good at that. But I think definitely several of my opponent's blunders were at least intermediate. They definitely weren't elementary. Like taking on B7. All the times it said they should have taken on B7. Like way back here. Again, that's pretty, at least intermediate, because of the deflection tactic that would have allowed this. Again, assuming that I didn't see it. And if I did see it, they just get the free pawn. I'm not surprised that my opponent missed those. And I'm not surprised that I made, some of the blunders that I made. I felt like most of these, maybe not advanced, but at least intermediate. The only one that I would count as elementary that I can remember is when I took their rook right here. That just allows mate. I should have definitely known and noticed that my king is trapped on the back rank. I had to get my rook over here. I couldn't trade. And then this was elementary on my opponent's part to not mate me here, giving me chance to get the breakout. Yeah. Those two both in a row were elementary blunders. The rest, I think were at least intermediate. So I don't feel too bad about them. But still, 25 blunders in a game is it's a little disheartening. But I saw some things. And you saw that with the C5 pawn push, that was the tactic, trying to trick my bishop to take on C5 so they could fork my two pieces with B4. That was pretty intermediate as well. But because I saw it repeated several times in this game, and you saw that I even forgot what it was a few moves later and had to recognize it again, hopefully that is laying down some neural pathways that will help me in the future. Help me avoid getting forked for those opponents who would see that tactic. And then I can't fall for it, is the point. Thank you for spending your time here. I'll see you next time.